thing. Most of the time, adulterous situations feel good until they don't. That's the thing that I think a lot of guys don't really realize. You know, it feels really great to get your feathers fluffed. It feels really good to have the admiration of someone you know you're not going to bother with. But just the fact that they're even interested, you know, it makes guys feel good. It's interesting. And then I want to go to Nola specifically here in just a second. It's interesting that it's very easy to judge a guy who falls in a relationship and say, look, it's his fault. But because it's an act of commission. But what we don't realize is that sometimes in marital relationships, it's the acts of omission that make marriages more susceptible to sites like Ashley-Madison. Because if there was no need, if you're full, it's hard to continue eating. You know, you're going to push back from the dessert tray, if you're full. If everything is working optimally, and that's not to suggest that, you know, things can't happen, but those are typically the steps that happen. And the emotional is the way in a lot of times, not just the physical. Nola, what are your thoughts on this notion of, dealing with setting up boundaries, et cetera, et cetera?
One of the things that I was saying, I'm going to come back to that one, but the first question, you know, do you go out and have, you know, spend quality time or a long time? With the first statement that was stated that you said, you don't want to do any of that, especially when your relationship is on the rocks.
True.
You're not talking. You're not having consensual, a long time. There's a big emptiness in between the both of y'all. You don't want to step on the side, even if it is a good friend. You don't want to do that because, you know, what you're doing is you're perpetuating the cycle. You start to put a cycle in place that you don't know where it's going to go. And eventually you're going to get comfortable with that cycle. And once humans get comfortable, that's when you become weak. That's when you become vulnerable, because once you start putting things in place, you start to lower your gates because your self-esteem gets high. You're thinking, like you said earlier, let me address, I got this. Yeah, you do got it, but you're comfortable. And that's when we fall, when we're comfortable. You know, nobody seems to know that. When you get comfortable is when you get relaxed. And that's when the devil step in. He ain't gonna mess with you when he know you're strong. He wants you when you think you're comfortable, and when you're comfortable is when you're at your most cockiest moment. And that's what steps in.
Yeah, you make a good point. Mustang, let me ask, do you find that the majority of marital vicissitudes, the challenges of marriage, do you think that's what fosters the Ashley-Madison type sites? Or do you feel that it's just an emptiness in a person looking for, you know, an emotional thrill that they're not perhaps getting at home? Or just being selfish? I don't know.
Well, I believe it's a shortcut. And yeah, I do believe I believe selfishness is the root of the majority of the things that, you know, that are evil. But yeah, I believe that it's a shortcut. You know, instead of working on my marriage, how about I just sleep with this lady who likes me? You know, I believe that that's one aspect, but I think even a bigger aspect is not even that. I think a lot of the guys listening will attest to this. You know, and now me, I could be wrong, but for me personally, the devil's going to hit me where I'm the weakest. So the devil's not going to bring a lady, you know, start making fun of me who's like, hey, you know, big boy, you want company tonight? You know, that's not because, no, I don't. I'm good. I'm filled in that area. However, a lady they're interested, and I gotta be careful because there's ladies out there listening. But a lady's like, oh, you're such a nice guy, or you're so handsome, or oh my God, I'm so proud of what you've done with your life, or oh my God, oh, I'm a Christian too. Oh, great, we can hang out and talk about things together. And I'm like, wow, this is a great lady. She's so nice, and I don't have to worry. Like Noah was saying, I don't have to worry about anything. She's a Christian. I believe in God. She believes in God. Hey, we'll be fine. Devil's like, got him. Now he can start working on it. Oh, like you said, the glances or this little just nothing but little bitty compliments. Oh, you look great today. You know, oh, I can't stand the way these glasses look on my face. Those glasses look great. Don't worry about it. Really? You think they do? Yeah, I think they look great. Oh, my husband never compliments me like that. And it's literally a ladder. And so he's going to hit you where you are the weakest. Like you said, when you're hungry, when you're full. You know what I mean? I don't want any more food. You can show me the menu all day. I'm stuffed, dude. This is a buffet. I'm stuffed. But all of a sudden, I'm lacking in the area of, I'm just giving an example of carbohydrates. I'm lacking the area of proteins. I'm lacking the area of drink. Whatever. I'm thirsty. I'm hungry. I want dessert. Whatever. But instead of us getting up and saying, you know what, I'm going to work on this. Let me go in there and make some food. Let me go in there and cook up this dinner. Let me go in there. Let me go to the store, get the vegetables, come home, spend 30 minutes, an hour making food. We're like, you know what, I'll just take this prepackaged meal that's sitting in the freezer. And guess what? You'll get exactly what you asked for. You'll get a prepackaged meal sitting in the freezer. You'll take it out. It'll taste good in that, 10 minutes it takes you to consume it. But your body's going to hate you. And it's just, it's not the best for you. So that's the best way to explain it for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Noah.
And I would like to also piggyback on that. When you're in a situation, I've known the Lord to give you a way out of that situation.
Maybe
you get a call. He'll put something on your conscience. You know, when you feel your blood start to move, and I'm saying this in a metaphorically way. When you
in a PG, it's in a PG rated.
I like it.
And a man get his blood start to move.
Oh man,
that's his cue, especially when he know that it's not his property. And hear me out, ladies. Hear me out.
Oh man.
People would tell you, especially men, I've never stolen a day in my life. But you would take something that's not for you. Okay. You will steal something that hasn't been given to you in matrimony. But you call yourself not a thief. Now, of course, I am guilty. I've stolen a lot. However, I know better. When you know better, you do better. And righteously, if you have someone at home, then why don't you go back home and do better? Because just because you see green grass, you must know that it's turf.
Well, you must need to water your own. You need to water your own grass.
There you
That's
go.
what I'm saying.
Your own grass.
if the other grass looks greener, you need to water your own grass. That's what I'm.
Amen. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
But I did want to say, no, like that. Those are excellent points. What I've heard from you guys, and sort of to bring it to a kind of a nutshell, is number one, you've got to set up some boundaries. You've got to know your areas of weakness. That means you've got to do some introspection, some study of yourself to know, okay, these are the things that challenge me, and nobody else is going to be able to do that gut check but you. So that's number one. Number two, you've got, after you understand where your weaknesses are, set up effective boundaries around yourself, whether that be not being alone with the woman or not being in compromising situations or whatever the case may be. Find yourself the guidelines and the boundaries that will make it possible for you to work within those constraints. Number three, water your own grass. Fix that meal. Go home, take your time with the woman that God gave you. Work that thing out. Work it out so that you guys are on the same page. The book by Dr. Leonard Harley, suggests that every time you do positive romantic things in your own relationship, that person becomes more attractive to you. The fewer times you do romantic things and gestures and overtures towards that other person, the less attractive they become. And over time, if you leave the relationship to its natural progression, you'll usually find that relationship drifts apart. So you have to actively pursue a relationship with your spouse continuously throughout marriage. And those wonderful times that continue to buoy the marriage will help to sustain it. And then the last thing is this: don't think you got it. Because at the time, there's a passage of scripture that says pride goes before destruction and a haughty spirit or prideful spirit, I got this spirit before a fall. So usually the time when you feel like you got everything together is the time where you get entrapped in things that are not safe for you to be in. And that doesn't just mean ending up on sites like Ashley-Madison. I wanted to cite before we get off in the remaining 2 minutes, and then I'm going to have each of you make a few comments. But Ashley-Madison can cost you your job. It can cost you your company. What that data breach that happened in 2015, we happen to know that in the complex that I have my companies, that there was a corporate exec who was using the Ashley-Madison site and used the corporation's building address as the address so as not to use his home address. And apparently, three individuals in our complex were on that list. Not only did they lose their companies and their jobs, two of them lost their jobs. One guy was in a position of great leadership, and he actually lost the company. The company moved out 6 months later in 2016. But, you know, the power of that is, you might just be thinking of it as a fling, but it might be a setup for your destruction if you're not careful. And I think a lot of guys don't see the value of preserving the integrity. And we're going to talk about integrity in our next podcast. But guys, before we go, did you have any final parting comments before we leave the topic of Ashley Madison?
Yeah, I wanted to share with you guys Matthew 10. And this here is in the Bible's Matthew 10:26. And it says, "Therefore, do not fear them, for there is nothing concealed that will not be revealed, or hidden that will not be known." And I believe there's two different ways to take that. It goes on to actually talk about things that are in darkness, that are spoken in darkness should be spoken in light. Actually, positive things that are spoken in darkness should be spoken in light, and positive things that are whispered in your ear, you should proclaim those on the housetop. But also, I believe in the other interpretation, which is the careful. There's nothing that's done in darkness that's going to not be revealed in light at some point.
Good point. Nola, did you have any final comments before we wrap it up?
Oh, yes. So I just want to read this to the world. And this comes off of Ashley Madison's website. It's called Discretion Matters. "We knew you value your privacy, and we do too." Just that one sentence saying that they know that you value your privacy. Well, how can you tell me that you value my privacy when you're asking me to step outside of my marriage? Second, ask you to log in using a public social network account. Well, how else do I log in? Okay. We have several features designed to help you keep your private life private. Again, if you're asking me to step outside of my private life, I'm meeting somebody who is public. How is it private? So if you look at just the word, sometimes when we read things, if we just take our time and read and ask the Holy Spirit for understanding, you can find deception in any paragraph, any sentence. How can you tell me that my life is private when you're asking me to come outside of it?
And be in the public. Yeah, that's a good point. That's good stuff. Gentlemen, we are just about out of time, but I wanted to say this has been an excellent discussion, and we are going to continue with integrity. That'll be next week's topic. We'll talk about the integrity, particularly in the dark, when no one is listening and no one is looking. This has been Conversations from the Cave. Thank you to all of our new listeners who are joining us from iHeartRadio. Thank you for the continued listeners who choose to download our podcast on iTunes and Spreaker.com. Feel free to reach out to us on social media, particularly Twitter and Facebook, if you have questions about the program or if you'd like to suggest a topic for the panel to discuss. We look forward to meeting up with you again every Sunday at noon, Central Standard Time. Again, Conversations from the Cave, and until next time, love one another.
Conversations from the Cave is brought to you by the Alabama Cornea Care Center, Northern Alabama's first irregular cornea, keratoconus, and scleral lens referral center, specializing in the management of degenerative cornea disease and complications resulting from refractive surgery. For more information, you may visit them on the web at alabamacorneacare.com. The Alabama Cornea Care Center, helping patients see the light of the world. Conversations from the Cave is a production of the Provox Media Group. For more information or to share your questions or comments, visit our podcast Facebook page by searching Conversations from the Cave. The views expressed on this program are the personal beliefs of the panelists and do not necessarily represent the beliefs of the Provox Media Group or its sponsors. Join us next time for more real talk from real men. Conversations from the Cave.